Hey, and we are live slightly early, but we just got home from a house show. What is up, wrestling fans?
It is the Two Bros Wrestling Show.
Two,
And 1 and 2 on the same screen, Doug. We're
Yeah,
in the same
right.
room.
In the studio.
I do believe this might be the second time ever that we've been in the same room doing the
Yes,
show live
yes.
together.
We've done post pay-per-views. That's kind of hard to say.
That's right. We'd seen a pay-per-view together, and we would do the show together. But today we're together because, as Doug mentioned, we attended WWE's house show in Huntington, West Virginia, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. But
Yes, it is.
main event topic, of course, is Royal Rumble.
Royal Rumble.
We are ready to rumble on Saturday night, as it turns
Saturday
out,
night.
which is going to be a little odd.
It's going to be odd.
But
we'll power through.
We will
power through,
as we always do. But Doug, I'm with you, so I have no bells to ring. We're driving from your end. We got
yeah, reach over, but then it's going to look weird.
Opening bell.
Ding ding. Wait, do you have the ding ding?
I didn't pack the bell with me.
Okay.
So we'll just have to.
Although, did you see the kid with the bell at the show tonight? Who was at ringside?
He had a ring bell.
He had a ring bell, and he would have people sign it as they walked by.
If
he could get them to sign it. So that was interesting. We don't have his bell either. So
that is an excellent. That actually is an excellent thing to get autographed.
Yeah,
that's
I thought so. Pretty clever.
We'll just pretend though that the ref has actually called for the bell.
Ding, ding, ding.
And so we'll get to the news.
Let's do it.
Doug, I would think that the big news this week might be the return of Jon Moxley to the world of professional wrestling after, I'm not sure, what was it, 4 months?
3-4 months?
3 or 4 months away, being treated for alcohol addiction, and very open about the fact that he was battling alcohol addiction, and came back looking like a much
leaner, much younger looking too, I think.
Much more healthy looking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And cut a pretty incredible promo, actually. Impassioned promo on Wednesday night.
So here's my read on that. There's somebody who yells something right at the beginning. He clearly addresses it, drops an F-bomb. I'm sure Tony Khan's already written a check for that to cover whatever fines come from that. But then the crowd goes eerily silent for a while during his promo, and then they kind of bring it back in. But I think, the crowd immediately overcorrected for that one fan, which he just destroyed. And then I think everybody's like, oh, yeah, this is his moment.
It got a little uncomfortable, and I'm not sure what the person was saying, but it was obviously enough to get under Mox's skin. So it may not have been very kind considering his personal circumstances. Sure. So I imagine that's but in general, other than that one guy who got himself thrown out for it, the wrestling world is very happy to see Mox healthy and back. And he returned to action on Friday night on AEW's Rampage, and is actually defending his world title probably not long after this show goes on there.
That's right.
Game Changer Wrestling. So the GCW World Championship, which Moxley is in possession of, he is defending tonight. So he's right back into the fire of things, and it's wonderful to have him back.
And I just want to point out that his return to the wrestling ring was with Ethan Page, not Paige, the WWE former women's champion, as my wife thought when she started asking, are they talking about Paige from WWE? It's like, no, it's all ego Ethan Page.
That would have been an interesting return match choice, though, would it not?
That's a lot of returns right there.
That would be a lot of returns. But welcome back, Mox. Welcome back, and then goodbye for our next story, Doug. We'll transition into, surprise, surprise, yet another talented individual gone from the world of World Wrestling Entertainment, Mustafa Ali, who has suffered for years, really, from these start and stop pushes. I mean, he would be looking like he was about to break towards the top of the card, and then would disappear for long stretches of time. The most recent stretch being asking to leave for paternity leave,
right?
And which is granted and perfectly warranted. And yet, when he was eligible to come back from maternity leave, he did not get brought back, and so. His dissatisfaction definitely has been growing for a while. He's been vocal about it on social media, but from all reports, he was getting ready to return. In fact, vignettes had supposedly been filmed that he had posted, some samples of online. So they had this whole idea for a refresh on his character. And then before the callback, he, I guess, from all reports, had a shouting match with Vince McMahon. That Vince had decided he changed his mind and had a new direction he wanted to take the character. And while I haven't read anything about what that direction was, Ali supposedly refused to do it and thought it was offensive.
All I've read is something that he would have never done ever do.
Which makes me think, and I mean, I hate to call out.
Probably wanted to cut his hair and work a terrorist angle or something
That's
ridiculous.
exactly
like
what I was afraid of. That considering his ethnicity, if it was so adamant about not wanting to do it, it probably was playing into a stereotype that he did not want to perpetuate.
Now, I had read that also that he had asked for his release, but had yet not been granted. Has he been granted the release now?
That I have not heard.
Okay.
I know that he had considered himself released because he had asked for it.
It was just like, peace out,
I'm not going back.
Good for him.
And very good for him. And I can't imagine, again, I know we say it every time someone gets released, Tony can't hire everybody, and he can't.
But, it is a very different landscape than it was just a few years ago. I hope we are on the end of the pandemic run. Things are getting back to normal. I mean, we just saw a house show. This is the first house show that we've seen together since before the pandemic. We saw NXT at the very beginning of March in 2019.
2020 because it was right as the world was shutting down.
Yeah,
we didn't know if that show would take place. We got in right under the wire on that one. That's how close it was.
So, but it's a very different world than what has been for the past couple of years. Tony can't hire everybody. However, there are a lot of options that did not exist 2-3 years ago. So I'm sure Mustafa will. I'm not sure of his actual real name. I'm sure that's a WWE moniker, but whatever his name actually is, I'm sure he's going to be showing up somewhere within 90 days, probably.
And hopefully with a better gimmick and a sustained push, because he was very, very, actually, I do believe, if I recall way back to our mock draft that we did back in the day, you even selected him.
Absolutely.
Because he's that kind of talent that you would be able to build, a roster around a guy like that. And he never was that guy in WWE.
Yeah. And what was the horrible retribution? Oh my God.
That whole angle was dead.
It was terrible.
DOA.
It had so many talented folks in that stable, but
on paper, if you said you had an angle running with those folks, you think,
please,
yes, and then instead we got what we got. And now we have someone who's refusing to do what the boss wants him to do and ready to walk away to hold on to his value. So again, good for him. And hopefully he does land it on AEW, because that it's an exercise we're going to take in a future show, knowing that we can't have Tony hire everybody. We're going to do something in a show that I think we have scheduled, not for February, because February is kind of crowded, but end of February, maybe right beginning of March, we're going to have a show where we look into trimming the AEW roster. If you have an opportunity to hire Mustafa Ali, bring in a Keith Lee, but the exercise is going to be, but who do you get rid of?
That is rough. Because
it's going to be rough.
Because I think there are a lot of AEW talent that are slowly starting to transition out, including Cody Rhodes, apparently. But
true, who's working without a contract.
Yeah, allegedly a free agent. I'm leaning towards this one's a work, everybody. I'm leaning towards that. But and I told Kevin earlier, if we do see Cody Rhodes show up at Royal Rumble, it's going to be his gold dust.
Stardust.
It might be his gold dust. Who knows?
If they Stardust and gold dust come back together, that would be quite the shock. And more comings and goings. Doug, PCO, who recently, I guess, as with everyone else on the Ring of Honor roster, was released from his contract. Has been working a angle with Impact Wrestling where it's an ROH invasion. And we mentioned that last week. If you didn't check out last week's show, totally centered around Ring of Honor, the end of Ring of Honor, and the potential future of Ring of Honor. But it appears that beyond just the angle that they're running right now with some Ring of Honor talents on Impact, that PCO has officially signed with Impact Wrestling. So he's going to be a talent there for not just this short-term program that they have going on, but for the long haul. I don't know if that means it precludes him from returning to Ring of Honor when it supposedly starts back up in April. But maybe this is a way to keep these two promotions sort of tied together by sort of sharing some talent.
Sharing talent. And again, like we talked about last week, I think the plan for ROH going forward is basically handshake deals anyway, with talent kind of coming and going. So I think they could still do that with PCO. I'm just wondering what the long haul is for a talent with the miles and years that PCO has.
You wouldn't think he would have gotten as far as he's gotten, revitalizing himself over the last couple of years, considering the style he now wrestles at the age that he wrestles.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous.
He's an amazing talent.
But he's not human, as they chant.
He isn't human. This is so true.
And speaking of Ring of Honor, since we did, this makes a good transition, and we were just talking about them obviously as the main event topic last week's show. But we mentioned last week that the Ring of Honor was scheduled to return April 1st with Super Card of Honor, and we were curious as to what that card might end up looking like. Well, we don't really know what the overall card's going to look like, but we do now have a main event. And it's really a very compelling one and makes sense from a company standpoint and storyline standpoint. But we got Jonathan Gresham, who goes down as the official final world champion.
And incidentally, this is not Gresham.
But I thought it was today because of the octopus.
This isn't a weapon. It's not Gresham.
But you got the last ROH and current ROH champion in Jonathan Gresham versus Bandito.
Oh.
Who is claiming to be the actual Ring of Honor World Champion.
I love it.
Because he was supposed to defend the World Championship at the final Ring of Honor pay-per-view, but was unable to make it because of a COVID-19 diagnosis, and they had to pivot. And they had a vacant match where there was no champion involved in the match, but the winner would be the Ring of Honor World Champion. And so Gresham ended up in that spot and holding that title. So you have the guy who says, I never lost the World Championship, against the guy who's officially recognized as the final World Champion. Both incredible talents in the ring as well. So storyline-wise, action-wise in the ring, at least you have a great main event to build the rest of the card around.
I like it.
What the rest of it looks like, who knows?
maybe we'll get the Super Card of Honor. Maybe we'll get the Dim Boys and FTR,
which would be fantastic.
So maybe we get that there,
and probably some more Impact overlay, because you got the OGK and Maria Kanellis all down and causing trouble on Impact Wrestling. So you wouldn't be, the Good Brothers or somebody like that, defending Impact's honor. There's a lot of ways you could go to showcase some talent that don't touch very much, and make it for a compelling, at least a one-night return. Long term,
looking forward to it.
Who knows?
Whatever happens.
And then one last news item, and it regards pay-per-views. But WWE's next pay-per-view. The last pay-per-view on the road to WrestleMania is Elimination Chamber. So we got Royal Rumble, which we're getting ready to preview for you here in a few moments, and that comes up next weekend. But between that and Mania, you only have one event, which is good that they're showing that kind of restraint to not have too much jammed between, to stretch out Mania season the way it should be stretched out. Elimination Chamber is also a great concept that allows you to mix things up a little bit.
Great concept.
But they're really mixing it up this year because, Doug, you and I talked about this earlier. Where is it happening?
Saudi Arabia.
It's one of their Saudi Arabian shows, which is obviously a controversial thing, that they are basically in bed with a dictatorial regime with a very questionable record on human rights.
And then to do a premium live event called Elimination Chamber, emanating from Saudi Arabia. It's, as my 6-year-old would say, not appropriate.
It's not appropriate at all.
It is not appropriate.
But it will be happening on February 19th, another Saturday, and I presume that on Saudi time, meaning that it'll probably start 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So, we may be on Saturday night at a more normal 8 o'clock time, but we'll definitely get back to you for that, because we'll probably have a lot to review about that, and not just match finishes.
Right.
But I will say, the last time they did one of their premium events from Saudi Arabia, it was by far the best one, in that it seemed more like a pay-per-view instead of just like a house show in front of a disinterested audience. So it may have more of a feel of a normal Elimination Chamber, but we'll see.
We'll see. And of course, stay tuned next week to see how I and Peacock get along. Hopefully Peacock is playing nice with me and I can actually watch Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it's been a while since you've been able to do one of the WWE Premium Live Event reviews.
It has.
But that will be next week's show. which leads us. Oh, I'm driving over here. I
Oh.
forgot, because otherwise it would look
We would look inappropriate if I would do the reach over like that.
No reach arounds over here, Doug. It's time for the main event.
Woohoo! All right, main event. Let's do this.
Before we get into the main event of Royal
I'm
Rumble,
going to slide this laptop over so we can both see what's going on, because I have old man eyes and can't see the notes. Okay, there we go.
Before we get into for Rumble itself, which is the start of Mania season, the unofficial start to the road to WrestleMania, as they love to say, we sort of started our own road to WrestleMania and maybe a bit of a preview. Doug and I, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we attended WWE's Super Show event, which means both Raw, SmackDown talents on the same bill. Doug, what did you think overall of today's show?
You know what? It's been a while since I've been to an event, which we talked about earlier. I've got to say, I had a really great time. It was a much needed release. The 14-year-old inside of this 49-year-old really needed this, and it was a lot of fun. I think everybody around us was having a really good time, especially the squad in front of us. Shout out to y'all. I don't know your names, but you clearly love the New Day, and I'm right there with you. Even loved it at the end of the show. Big E acknowledged the girl in front of us.
She was dancing
dancing with the New Day shirt on. So shout out to her, whoever she is. Yeah, I had fun. It was a good time.
And the crowd, you were right. I'm glad you called out the crowd. I'd say, for a house show at an odd time, a 5 o'clock afternoon show, in some ways, middle of the day there, but 60, 75 maybe percent capacity, somewhere between there. I'd say 1,500 or so. And the crowd was really into it. They didn't sit on their hands. They were really into a house show.
Well, when you start out a show with Austin Theory and AJ Styles, that sets the bar for the whole show. And I really think that the show ran at that level throughout. I mean, you had its ups and its downs. It was booked very well, I think, from start to finish. And honestly, there was a point where me and Kevin were talking. We legit thought we were going to see a title change hands at a house show. The old men in us knew it wasn't going to happen, but those still 14-year-old marks,
those near falls,
we were believing it. And so kudos to Ziggler and
Priest.
Oh, gosh, I almost called him Punch Martinez again. Damian Priest. It's so hard sometimes, man. But yeah, shout out to them. It was a good time.
I would say that it does go to show how quickly everything changes. The world changes, especially over these last couple of years. As Doug mentioned, last time he and I saw a show together was NXT right before lockdown in 2020. And that here's Damian Priest tonight defending the U.S. Championship. We saw him at the last show we attended, almost as an unknown to the NXT audience, just getting his footing there.
I'm still calling him Punishment Martinez too.
From Ring of Honor, from his Ring of Honor days. And same, we saw Riddle.
Yes,
he was at that show. And look,
he was at that show.
Riddle's a made man, man. He's a star on Raw, bro. And and that night he was, a big star in NXT, but he was still at the level of NXT. So to see how quickly that roster can turn over and change. Austin Theory wasn't even on anyone's radar.
Right.
And here he was tonight in the opening contest. They have done a lot. If you haven't been to a house show in a while, they've done an awful lot to modernize the present day house show.
It really gives it a big time feel, which I really, really like that.
It makes it feel more important, like a TV event.
It does. And they continue to follow storylines too,
which is fantastic.
It's not just a practice, as I was trying to explain to my 6-year-old, that we're going to watch wrestling practice basically, because I had a feeling we're going to see a lot of work leading to Rumble for next week. I'm not sure that we saw that. Maybe some things we did, but overall, we saw storylines not necessarily evolve, but you're probably going to see them later this week. What we saw tonight continue from that, which I like that. So again, I think
Sonya Deville, who is like almost at this point just an on-air authority figure, shows up to screw over Naomi, which she's been doing on TV for the last couple of months, playing into the on TV storyline. I remember back in the day, I'd go to house shows, and it'd be just an assemblage of talent. And sometimes somebody would be playing a face role, even though when they're heel on TV, just because the matchups had nothing to do with the TV universe that we watch.
Yes.
And everything now is a lot more seamless in that
it is very much aligned with storylines.
Big E and Lashley interfering in one another's business and at each other's throats, very much in line.
Although, it is good to see that, some things, just the genuine reactions of the talent, because we are north of the Carolinas, but we are still pretty much we're south of the Mason-Dixon line, and we are
Yep.
in Flair country.
No doubt.
It's again we're north of the Carolinas, but we are definitely in Flair country. And Charlotte got a lot of love tonight, and she worked as a heel, but after the match, she was totally working as a babyface, working the crowd, giving high fives, hugging kids. It was really great to see.
And everyone really worked. I mean, I'm sure that they work with the talent to like say that you need to engage and don't just act like, hey, I'm at a house show, go through the motions. Down to almost every man and woman that was out there tonight. Kudos to all the talent. They have a rough road anyway, going town to town, and you would have thought that they were on television the way that they made sure most of the superstars to go around, and every kid got a handshake, an autograph.
Especially Priest, I got the name right that time. Worked everybody ringside, both sides of the aisle coming in, and then split out to both entrances to get around to everybody all around. I mean, he spent time, a lot of time. A lot of time would probably could have been put towards the next match, but he spent time,
making everybody have a moment.
Making everybody have a moment. That's great. Absolutely.
Bianca did that too.
Yes,
Bianca gave a little kid a hug.
Bianca made me cry.
It was probably the sweetest thing of the night, honestly.
Really was.
That little kid, I mean, little tiny dude, and I mean, he reaches out with those arms, and she changed directions to come back and give him a special
after Doudrop had did the high five. Because the heel did get the win in that match. Spoilers for anybody who's going to see this at some point. I don't know where you'll see it, but if you weren't there, but Doudrop gets the win, works the heel angles, goes to give the kid a high five, then pulls it back, works her heel angle, walks out. Bianca comes around and gives the kid a hug. It legit made me cry.
It was good beautiful work all the way around from everybody involved. And again, to that big feel that they now have, that you get not just storylines that match up with what's on TV, but you got jumbotrons, you got lights and music that are very similar to what
Byron Saxton working the crowd, keeping everything going.
Yeah, working it hard. So it definitely isn't like the old days where it's just one light on the ring and no intros and no music, no big event feel to it. So they've done an awful lot to modernize things, and it was a good time had by all.
Absolutely.
And with that, Doug, you want to go on to the next thing we have brewing? Actually, match of the night for tonight. What was your favorite match from the house show?
So interesting, because I'm going to jump ahead of here a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm going to call this my match of the night. I was thinking about this on the drive back to the studio here, that my match of the night for our wrap up, for our big finish, was going to be this match too. But
I've called you out and made you do it.
So I'll go double dutch here.
No.
So my match of the night for this show and for this week, nobody's going to see this match, but unless you were there live. So if you were there live, shout us out in the comments below. But and I have notifications.
Someone's shouting you out.
Somebody's shouting us out already. All right, cool. But I'm going to have to go with the Ziggler and Damian Priest match, because it legit made me lean over to Kevin and say, I know it's not going to happen, but I feel like the way these guys are working, these near falls, I feel like there could be a title change at a house show in Huntington, West Virginia tonight.
That's awesome.
Just the way they were working. The old jaded Mark in me knows better that it's not going to happen at a house show, but I legit felt that it was going to happen because of the way these guys were working. Ziggler's heel work was impeccable tonight.
He was good.
The promo he cut beforehand, I leaned over to you. I'm like, he's the heel, right? He's cutting a babyface promo. Then at the end of the promo, he turns it around to how this town is like a piece of trash, garbage. He's going to get this and get out of here. It was just great work from start to finish. I think Ziggler delivers consistently anyway,
and doesn't get much of a chance to do that on TV. So you might have saw more of his talent at a house show like we did than you do on TV.
Priest, who I've loved from his days as Punishment Martinez, which I often still call him.
Yeah.
I think that's great. His work has always been great, and he just seems like he's having a genuine good time.
Yeah, because he
just like Liv Morgan. This girl loves what she does.
Liv had a great match.
She did.
Yeah,
she did. But for me, it was that Priest match.
I think it started high with AJ versus Austin Theory. That was a good match.
Oh, yeah.
And then, honestly, a shout out to Chad Gable The contest he and Matt Riddle had was fantastic.
It was fantastic.
Might have been my match of the night, but the fact that we can have several matches that we enjoyed enough to think it might have been the match of the night goes to show that it was a good house show.
It was, and let me tell you, I did not know that Otis was such a great. I don't even know what to call Otis at this point, because his work outside the ring was with this Gable Riddle match until he gets ejected from from ringside. I mean, his character work was so solid. He was hilarious working the crowd in a heel way, but still hilarious. And I mean, it was just entertaining from bell ring to bell ring.
So especially if you haven't been to a show in a while, and obviously you're watching this because you're a wrestling fan, if you get a chance to go, it doesn't have to be WWE. If it is AEW or if it is Impact, if you got a chance to go see live wrestling again, go support these men and women, because they have missed you as much as you missed them. They seem like they really enjoy being in front of crowds. That still hasn't worn off yet. Having those crowds back. So Doug, transitioning to crowds, we're going to have the maybe biggest crowd in the history of Royal Rumble next Saturday night, because they're having it in a dome. So I mean, it's going to be more like it's where the Rams used to play football in St. Louis. So it's a big empty.
You just started talking sports ball, so I'm confused. But from the context, I get that there's
a football stadium.
There's a big stadium involved.
It's a big stadium event, and they've never held Royal Rumble in a place this size. I don't think it's sold out,
right?
But it's going to, even if it's a capacity crowd, it's very likely to break a Royal Rumble record for biggest crowd they've ever had. And it is Saturday event, so we all need to start getting adjusted to the fact that pay-per-views or premium live events are not
live events. They're no longer pay-per-views.
No, it's going to be always on Sunday nights. So let's maybe save the Rumble matches for last, because there's so much you can get into about like who's in the Rumble and who might win the Rumble and that sort of thing. Let's talk about the matches.
Let's do that.
Where do you want to start? You want to start with
let's just jump down here to number 3. Lesnar with Paul versus Bobby Lashley. So
WWE Championship on the line.
So this is a dream match for a lot of MMA fans,
sure,
who are also WWE fans who wanted to see this for quite some time. We're finally getting it. Honestly, there's no question in my mind that Lesnar goes over here. I mean,
you don't bring him back at this point.
You don't.
To have him for anything other than eventual opponent for Roman Reigns.
I mean,
it's just how you get there.
I mean, Bobby Lashley is a beast. Looking at him live tonight, this man is a sculpted god, but he is not Brock Lesnar, and the beast is going over against Mr. Walking Armageddon here, the almighty Bobby Lashley. It will be a good contest. We will all be entertained. I know I say this way too much on this show. We will be entertained. Everybody wins here, but Bobby Lashley is going to get the L.
They will hit each other hard. These are two big men. You're not going to see any high flying. You're just going to see guys absolutely wailing on one another. Stiff shots. But yes, I don't know if it's a clean finish. There's always the chance that they further the program between Brock Lesnar and a Roman Reigns, or whoever might be involved.
Yes.
I mean, we have to think with these title matches that they are a pit stop on the road to WrestleMania. And you have Elimination Chamber where you will want to have one of these championships, if not both of these championships, defended in a way that you have 4 other guys thrown in the mix.
Right.
So there's a lot of ways they could go with how they position folks on that road to WrestleMania. But I don't think it's going to involve either of the current champions losing their championships before the big event.
I have a theory about that, but we'll get to it with our other match here in a minute.
Well, let's go to maybe one that's maybe a little lesser as far as importance.
Sure.
You want to talk about the mixed tag match?
I was going to say, let's jump to Beth Phoenix and Edge, and I'll let Beth Phoenix go first, because I'm looking at that, because Beth Phoenix, Edge, Ms. Maurice,
couples, real life husband and wife teams that have been on a trajectory for a while. So it's definitely something that they've put some time in. I'm not necessarily a big fan of mixed tag matches.
I'm not a fan of this. Mixed tag
I am
matches,
happy to see Beth come back, of course, just because Beth is a talented individual that probably was ahead of her time as far as being able to get her due in an era when women weren't as appreciated as they are these days. But I don't see Ms. and Maurice winning this one. I don't see why they would.
So, and that's my question here. Who needs to win more here? Do Beth and Edge need to win, or do Miz and Maurice? Because it's really the only full-time talent we have here is Miz.
True.
But does Miz need a win? I don't think he does.
No.
I do not think he needs that W here. You know, the only full-time talent out of Edge, Beth Phoenix, and Maurice, Miz. It's Miz, but he doesn't need the win. I see this as a feel-good. The baby faces go over.
And there's always a chance that Beth Phoenix doesn't have just a one-off. I mean, it is the road to WrestleMania, and
true.
She has permanently left her NXT commentating position.
That is true.
To prepare not just for this, but maybe for a couple of shots, you know, on this road to WrestleMania. So I'm not sure I want to see this feud continue, but it could break off into some singles contest or something bigger for Beth, because she even hinted that she might also put her hat in the Royal Rumble. So we will see.
So some of these things, again, with every Royal Rumble prediction that I do every year, some of these things are contingent on when the matches take place to see how things fall. But there's always the possibility Beth wins or loses this, then gets involved in the Royal Rumble, and that leads to something. I don't see that happening here, though.
I don't see it happening either. So I think we're in agreement that
baby faces win.
Yeah, you got to feel good on this one because everybody wants to see Beth return. Edge has been out for a while. Miz is Teflon. Miz is one of those that doesn't get enough credit. He's kind of that annoying guy that doesn't ever. You don't think of as a main event guy, but if you need him in that role, they slot him in, and it works.
He delivers.
And he delivers.
Absolutely.
And he loses more than he ever wins, and yet you still buy into his act. So, I mean, really, he doesn't get the credit.
Still, after John Morrison and The Miz coming and going, you know, Miz is still the one that's here.
Yeah.
You know, after multiple, iterations of that Miz Morrison tag team, Miz is still the one that's here. Miz doesn't need a W here. I don't think he's going to get the W. It's going to go to the baby faces.
How about Becky Lynch defending her Raw Women's Championship against Doudrop, who we saw tonight? We didn't see Becky. We saw Doudrop.
I like Doudrop. I like Piper Niven.
I like Piper Niven as Piper Niven.
That's what I should probably say here. I like Piper Niven as Piper Niven. I do not like her as Doudrop. I shouldn't say I do not like her. I do not like the Doudrop character. I do not like what WWE has done with her as Doudrop. However, I don't see anybody but the man going over here.
Same. Doudrop's very talented. Again, not really crazy about the direction of the character. Obviously, Becky Lynch is a superstar. I gotta be honest, I'm a bit disappointed. I really thought that Liv Morgan was going to get her moment. She was really being pushed towards that role of feeling like maybe it was her time. And then, she lost to Becky. And then that was kind of that. And I thought maybe this is a way for her to get back into the title scene, but they went with Doudrop as the challenger. And I'm just not ready for a Doudrop championship run. So I'm hoping it's Becky.
I don't think anybody is, and I don't see Becky losing to the character Doudrop. Becky Lynch versus Piper Niven, I think, is a completely different story, but that's not the story we're getting here.
Again,
we're getting
talented girl.
Yes.
Very talented lady.
She did great heel work tonight.
She
loved
did.
her in the ring. Loved her work.
But if there was a quiet moment tonight, it was people were really into Bianca.
Yes.
Because it was a three-way tonight in Huntington with Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, and Doudrop. And people love Liv. She's the underdog always, the undersized underdog that people root for because she seems so genuine in her passion for wrestling. Bianca is a beast. People love her for her feasted strength. And I think that the Doudrop character is still so new. I'm not sure the crowd knew how to react.
And I'm not sure she is marketed or pushed in a proper way to get her over. Because like we were talking about earlier, she should be a monster in the ring. She should be that Awesome Kong type beast.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
And they started her as this fun-loving, like dancing Doudrop character, but then they turned her heel, but kept the same look and name. Yes. So she needs some character realignment. She'll get her time eventually, if not in WWE, somewhere else.
Unless she's released in WWE.
Yeah. But now is not her time.
It's not, unfortunately.
Just because I don't think the crowd would buy into it, despite the talent that's there. So the man.
Agreed. The man is still the man. Seth Rollins' wife goes over.
And speaking of
Speaking
Mr. Rollins,
I'll set you up for a segue.
we'll talk about the other match that isn't a Rumble match that's currently on the bill. I know there'll be more added to this, but the thing about the Royal Rumble is that when you have now a men and a women's Royal Rumble, each of which are guaranteed to go an hour, you're going to have a 3 to 4 hour show.
Yes.
Well, a majority of your real estate is already eaten up by the two Royal Rumble matches. So some of these contests, when I say normally if I'm looking at 6 matches like we are right now, they got to say we're going to have a lot added on Raw and SmackDown. But I'm not sure we are. I'm not sure there's room
I'm not sure
for a whole lot much more.
With a men's and a women's Royal Rumble match, I do not see a lot more on the card than what we already have.
So we may be with these 4 and then the 2 Rumble matches. So the last match we have not talked about is your tribal chief, who absolutely owned it tonight, as he's owned professional wrestling in WWE for the last 2 years now. But you have someone else who's also in total command of their character now.
Oh my goodness!
And that being Seth Rollins. This is going to be so entertaining in this singles match for the Universal Championship. But Seth freaking Rollins is not even a SmackDown talent. He's a borrowed Raw guy.
I love this. He is a borrowed Raw guy. It seems like they called an audible at the last minute. Gave Brock Big E's belt. Seth Rollins is now going against his former Shield companion, the tribal chief, which I did totally acknowledge tonight, Roman Reigns, when he entered the ring. Now, here's what I see happening, Kevin. Somehow, I'm not sure how yet, Seth freaking Rollins takes that belt from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns. Wait, hear me out. Hear me out, man. Listen to me, okay? Seth Rollins takes that belt. If this match right here, Rollins versus Reigns, takes place before this men's match. If it does, that tribal chief goes on to win this men's match.
He enters in.
I'm spoiling spoilers, everybody, because here's my call for the Royal Rumble winner. Roman Reigns wins the Royal Rumble after Seth Rollins. Somehow, I'm not sure how the logistics work yet, but somehow Rollins gets the W, maybe with an assist from Kevin Owens, because we saw them buddy up tonight, and I think we've been seeing this weird corporation happening here between Owens and Rollins. Maybe Owens is coming out there stopping the interference of the Usos. Rollins wins that belt from Reigns. Rollins becomes the Universal Champion. These belts confuse me. Rollins wins that Universal Championship. Reigns will then go on to win the men's Royal Rumble and challenge for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania.
So instead of getting revenge on Seth Rollins, he will be torn, but instead be goaded into a match with Lesnar.
That's the way I'm calling this one. That's the way I'd book it anyway.
So on its face, if you look at this, it's in some ways we have a pretty good idea where things are pointing to for Mania, which almost makes it feel like in these title matches on what is one of their bigger pay-per-views, that being Royal Rumble, in front of one of the largest audiences that they'll have been in front of for a very long time. It doesn't look like there's any possibilities for title changes. So they may have to shake things up in a way that people aren't expecting, because otherwise it's almost de facto here that we know who the winners are going to be.
Of course, this is all contingent on
placement.
This men's Royal Rumble taking place after Reigns v. Rollins. If that happens before then all my predictions are shot, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I'm going to go conventional wisdom here. I like that booking. I'm going to go conventional wisdom here and say that our tribal chief retains, just because he always does. I mean, he's getting into historic territory here as far as how long he's held this championship. It is about time for him to lose, and I imagine that at Mania he is going to lose. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he ends up being the one who wins at Mania if he loses it at Royal Rumble. But I'm going to go for I'm still with you, Roman. Regardless of where this match is placed, I'm like Paul Heyman. I love you, man.
I love it.
That was fantastic work. Seth Rollins will put on a great showing. This will be the match of the night as far as crowd reactions go. The crowd is going to be so hot for both of these guys. And a little bit of a spoiler from today's house show, Seth Rollins may be collecting information on the house show circuit and realizing that I might not be the de facto face in this contest, because Roman Reigns was cheered big time.
We want Roman chants.
We want Roman chants, but when to tag him in,
yes,
people wanted him in the ring.
This is true.
And you had for years WWE trying to force Roman Reigns down our throats as a face, and people would boo him. And now that we're supposed to boo him, the crowd's starting to cheer him, because much like Doug and I have been talking about for a long time on this show, acknowledging him. They appreciate the work that he's doing, and they were into him. And Seth Rollins may be the heel, even though he is a sort of a tweener in this storyline. He would be easy to slip into that role of the heel if that's the way 80,000 people go against him. You can't fight that tide, because if the 2,000 or less we were with tonight turn and decide they're going to cheer Roman Reigns, if 80,000 people do that, no amount of announce team magic is going to change the tide of like
so true.
You better go Hogan Rock on and just like everybody just flip rolls and just go with it.
Absolutely.
You can't fight that tide.
Absolutely, because you really had, I mean, I don't know what capacity the arena we were in actually holds, but I'm going to say we're 60%, 70% full for a house show. And these people were clearly behind our tribal chief. He asked for Huntington, West Virginia to acknowledge him, and Huntington truly acknowledged this man as the tribal chief, as the head of the table, chanting, "We want Roman." And his reactions to it, because he realizes that he is the heel, even to the point where he goes and grabs a mic at one point and talks trash about the town, getting that cheap heat where you talk trash about the town. You know, he got that tonight, but still people were behind him.
Yeah, 100% behind
Absolutely.
him. And you really do in this instance. It's not a comfortable fit. I mean, you have a great storyline in that it's Shield, ex-Shield mates, guys that know each other better than anyone else. But you have a SmackDown guy and a Raw guy without a lot of recent history, because they've been on separate shows. They have that built-in history, which is why it makes it a compelling contest.
Absolutely.
However, because it's really a contest out of necessity of like the talent right now on the SmackDown side being a little thin, with releases and COVID sickness and the like, so they're pulling him over from another show, and you got two heels really going against each other. Expect that Roman Reigns is not going to be the heel in this match. Roman Reigns is going to be the face in this match, and Doug's got to go in one way, and I got to go in the other.
So, and this is interesting too. My nephew Tyler pointed out after I sent him this shot of Roman Reigns. Love to you, Tyler. That he's concerned about how they're putting over the hardcore. His quote here: TV are putting over hardcore that the fact that Roman has never beat Rollins in a one-on-one. You know, they're apparently pushing that hardcore on TV. So I think that also leads to my prediction.
And he still doesn't.
Maybe even Brock Lesnar comes out and interferes in this match just to get under the skin of the tribal chief.
Well, maybe since we're seeing this one going a different direction, it's a good time to jump off into the Royal Rumble matches, because
I think so.
There's so many ways that you can set the table in Royal Rumble matches that
you set it for the head of the table.
That go unseen. I mean, like, that make it hard to predict, because you have 30. Well, I shouldn't say 30 possible winners. WWE would tell you there's 30 possible winners, but we know there's like 4 or 5 actual possible winners in each of these matches.
Yeah.
Sorry, Reggie, you're not winning.
Although Reggie was awesome tonight. The best thing about his entrance was that Sin Cara trampoline jump he does to do his flippy floppy stuff into the ring. Looked great. That was the best thing about his Omos versus Reggie match.
Well, because Omos did his thing too. He looked very tall.
He looked tall.
He stood there and looked tall.
He did. That's his gimmick, and Vince loves that.
He played it. But
anyway,
there's only so many people that are legitimate contenders to win this. I want to concentrate on the men's match, so I want to save that to last if you're fine with it. Let's talk
fine.
the women's match.
I've already kind of showed my cards for that. So,
women's match is a little more difficult. Because the roster doesn't have the same number of female talents to get to 30
of talent.
There's not the depth. You have, I think, a lot more legacy acts and legit, like, it'll be exciting to see them pops. Lita making her return. Right. Obviously, Beth Phoenix has hinted that she's going to be in there. Let's see. These are officially already named for. Okay. We got Rhea Ripley, Nikki ASH, Dana Brooke, Carmella, Queen Zelina, Tamina, Shotzi, Natalya, Aaliyah, Naomi, Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair. You have the Bella twins returning, Nikki and Brie. You have Lita returning. You have Michelle McCool returning. Kelly returning. Summer Rae, who actually has not been around in a long time. She hasn't participated in a lot of the reunions and things that your Kellys and your Litas have. Been a while since we've seen Summer Rae. Mickie James, who is the NWA Women's World Champion right now, and who is also wrestling for Impact Wrestling at the same time, is right before the next Impact live event. She's going to be on WWE TV, and they're talking about it on Impact. I got to watch Impact for the first time in a while this week, and there she is talking about her participation in the Royal Rumble and going to AEW and going to NWA. So I mean, Mickie James is having a moment right now, but I don't see her as a possible winner. But you have Liv Morgan, you have Bianca Belair. Doug, who of this field do you think is legitimate? And I guess we should also say always the fun thing about Royal Rumbles, and they have traditionally been one of my favorite live events, is the surprises. Yes. And it's a little harder in today's day and age. It's not like what WCW person's going to jump ship the way it used to be. And because WWE is doing more firing than hirings, you're not going to have someone jumping over to a contract. But you see any surprises for this?
I don't know about surprises. I think the biggest surprise is going to be Mickie James there. It sounds like there is not the depth in the roster to actually put 30 women in this match. Shame on you, WWE, for that. But having said that, I don't see a lot of surprises other than what we've already teased. I think,
you used to also get the occasional NXT call up, like, hey, you're ready for the main roster. But now
I don't even know who's on the female side of NXT, right? NXT 2.0.
When you level NXT down to like the really the rookie class, you don't have those ready to graduate. Let's see them the next night on Raw.
There's no Rhea Ripley getting a call up.
Exactly. Yeah. So it leaves less room for those surprises.
Yeah, honestly, looking at this, like who's already in it, I can say, especially after watching tonight, we're either going to see Bianca Belair or Liv Morgan come out as the top contender out of this and get their shot at WrestleMania for a belt. That's my call anyway.
I think the hero's journey storyline would be an emotional Liv Morgan. You've hung in there. All your former teammates are injured and retired or let go, and here you are, and you're finally getting your time, and we're going to give you that match on the big stage. I would love to see Liv Morgan as your winner of. Although I am holding out the possibility, if you want to talk surprises, there's somebody who was main eventing WrestleMania not that very long ago who we've not heard of from in a while. Who WWE officials have in the past indicated would eventually return to WWE.
Who are you thinking? If
she comes back, she's winning.
Okay, I will rescind my Liv Morgan if Paige does enter.
Well, I was thinking of Ronda Rousey.
Oh, well, I was thinking Paige because.
Okay, now we got two good options.
But I seriously thought you were talking Paige, dude, because Paige has done a lot of hinting, especially on Twitter and on her Twitch channel, of returning.
Really?
Yeah, especially with Edge and Daniel Bryan having these turnarounds and being able to be medically cleared again. I wasn't even thinking Ronda. She was not even on my radar. But okay, now we have two potential surprise entrants. This is interesting.
If they do either one, it could be to set up something down the road and maybe not to have them in to win it. I feel actually kind of like to see Liv just because of having been there and putting in the time to get it. But as far as surprises go and building an angle to a Bianca Ronda Rousey match, oh my gosh. I mean, if Ronda Rousey is to eventually return, and she is, significantly enough past the birth of her child that she could be ready to return, and it's just being kept a secret.
So, and here's the thing, because Royal Rumble, starts the road to WrestleMania, but it also starts a lot of storylines that will lead to WrestleMania. Just because you're in that Rumble match and you lose does not necessarily mean you're not getting a WrestleMania match. Kevin and I could be in the Royal Rumble. I eliminate Kevin eliminates me. We start the storyline based on that, and it goes from there. So that.
Yeah, a lot of stories are born out of Royal Rumble, and obviously this is something we'll be talking about in a review next week. We'll know a lot more about Mania not just who's going to be in the main event,
True.
but who's going to be stacking that card.
True.
For the
I had
rest
not
of the
thought
way.
about Rousey, but when you start talking, I thought you were talking about Paige. Very interesting.
Either one of those or both of those
Both.
would be.
Let's see what happens.
Would be newsworthy buzz that would come out of the Royal Rumble, irregardless of who ends up winning.
Mhm.
Either of those women or both of those women returning would be fantastic. Let's look at the men, Doug, because this one's a little more cut and dry. That Johnny Knoxville is going to win the Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania. I see from your laughter that you were in agreement with me on this.
I'm sticking with Roman Reigns loses his title, enters the Royal Rumble, and then goes after Lesnar because there's shenanigans and the tribal chief has a score to settle with the Beast.
Can I go ahead and call it that Johnny Knoxville
You can call Johnny Knoxville.
does eliminate Sami Zayn? I mean, I think it goes without saying that Johnny Knoxville is going to get an elimination
Yes.
in the
Oh, he
Royal
will.
Rumble match.
Absolutely.
And it will be Sami
Absolutely.
Zayn. Poor Sammy, the good sport that he is going to take the fall over that top rope.
Hey,
for
man, he gets paid either
Johnny
way.
Knoxville.
Yeah.
He does. Just to be official, I guess we should say who is officially entered into the Royal Rumble. Thus far, we have less than we do on the women's side, which leaves more room for changes and or surprises. But Angela Dawkins, Montez Ford, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, Austin Theory, Johnny Knoxville, Sheamus, Damian Priest, AJ Styles, Big E, Happy Corbin, Madcap Moss. That's another one of Doug's favorites. He thinks we'll take this one. Sami Zayn, Kofi Kingston, and KO Kevin Owens. Obviously, there are a few guys in there that do not have a single shot at being amongst the final four. Really, it's always that's kind of a thing too. It's like who gets the most eliminations, who makes that final four, because the final four have to all be believable enough to be winners to have drama.
Is in here already?
He's not yet.
But we know he's going to be, and we were talking about this earlier. He will have the big man spots this year where he eliminates 2 or 3 people. People will double, triple, quadruple team him to try and get him
Kane roll.
The Kane, the Big Show roll. That's going to Omos this year.
The Lesnar roll in years past, except Lesnar actually had legit shot of winning.
AJ's here, so there's some more heat between the two of them.
Because they have to have a blowout match at Mania.
Absolutely.
Isn't that obviously where that's headed?
Absolutely. One eliminates the other there. Because, again, it's not just about who wins. It's about who eliminates who during the Royal Rumble.
Obviously, you don't have the same thing here where you have a bunch of nostalgia acts as you do with a lot of returning female talent. So a lot of unnamed folks in the men's Royal Rumble are probably going to be, again, probably if you get an NXT guy, it might be a Braun Breaker to show that, hey, this guy's ready.
Yeah.
But he's just there for the night and he's going back.
Absolutely.
But it wouldn't surprise me if you had that.
Yes.
From NXT.
I
but as far as surprises, do you see any major returns? Anybody that's coming back from injury or an old nostalgia, like an Edge type?
Beyond the nostalgia and WWE returns, I think we have to also look at there's been a lot of heavy hinting at the Forbidden Door being busted wide open, especially since we have an Impact champion representing women.
Yeah, that's true.
Although I do not see anybody on the current AEW roster going to Royal Rumble. That's not happening. As much as I would love to see it, I would love to see
Kenny Omega come in.
Right. It's not going to happen, y'all. No. I'm sorry. I would love to see it too, but it ain't going to happen. Maybe we get somebody from Impact, maybe an ROH, free agent now. Who that is, I don't know. But
who's big enough to make a splash in the world of wrestling? See, that's where it's different than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because especially when the two big guns don't play with each other, and you instead have a roster in WWE that just keeps getting thinned and trimmed. You don't have that big aha moment of someone jumping over from WCW to WWE. People get released from WWE and go to AEW or elsewhere. No one comes into WWE anymore from the outside except Edge or Mickey James, people who had already made their name in WWE in the past. I mean, is there anybody that would be prime for a return that we haven't seen in a while that I'm not thinking of?
I'm not thinking of it. I think if anything, we might see a Braun Strowman Titan, show up, something of that level. But you're wherever we have to look at the mid card of all these other promotions, I think, because they're not going to send their top talent to get basically squashed and tossed out of a Royal Rumble. Somebody from their mid card who can eventually be that top tier player is, I think, what we're going to see. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
It's nobody coming from AEW. Again, as much as I want to see it, it's nobody from AEW. We might see somebody from Impact, maybe some ROH talent that's looking for a paycheck. But again, I don't know who they are. But I don't see anybody from New Japan. I would love to see Kazuchika Okada show up. I would love to see Okada show up. But again, that's just a fanboy mark in me. That's not going to happen, y'all.
I think that the surprises are going to be in the women's match. I think where you have a Ronda Rousey who is a WWE
thought about
through and through, or a Paige who would, if she came back, would be a WWE person that would again be legit, like surprise. Yes. I don't think there's the same opportunities on the men's side as far as wrestlers from the past that wouldn't be just like, you know, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, coming in for a night. That kind of thing's possible. But as far as like a legitimate guy who's like, oh my gosh, Edge returned. That was a wonderful surprise that they had in store. I don't think that there's that level of surprise.
So they're probably, having you said that, mentioned Kane, there probably is there's definitely the opportunity for the Kane to show up and for them to have the big guy v big guy spot with Almost, and then Kane puts Almost over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's that opportunity, but
you'll have moments like that.
You'll have moments like that, you know, and we're going to see the old guard passing the torch, because I can totally see something like that with Kane and Almost, but I would love to see the forbidden door be broken, or not the broken door be forbidden.
Work that way too.
But I would love to see that, but it's just not going to happen the way we really want it to, and I think everybody watching knows that.
So I think Final Four. I think you're going to see. Bobby Lashley in there, because he's right now sort of on the outside looking in of the title scenes, and he's too big of a star and a legit main eventer that he'll be around the end. Austin Theory is someone that Vince McMahon is really high on, and there have been reports that he should be expected to be amongst the last 4 or 5 guys in the ring. That's how high Vince is on him. And Vince is actually right about this one. Theory's got everything going
absolutely. For him. That will really put Austin over. He's not going
to win.
But that really puts him on everybody's radar, him surviving that long.
Drew supposedly is you know, nursing that neck to the point that I don't know that if he participates,
I don't think he'll be healthy enough to make it back in time.
That they would trust if they put it on him that he would be able to stay healthy, by, you know, being in storylines and feuds from now until Mania. I see Big E as a legitimate guy to be there towards the end. I see somebody from the other main men's matches also being in the Rumble and getting there towards the end. And if it goes the way that you're suggesting, and if Roman Reigns somehow loses that championship, he has to instantly be considered the favorite to come into the Rumble, because they have to get to Lesnar Reigns. We know that's the end point. It's how do we get there? How do we connect those dots? It looked to me like they were going to go title versus title, but they don't necessarily have to, because if you go title versus title, that's already decided. What does the winner of the men's Royal Rumble get if you have your 2 champions against each other?
Yeah, unless you get a fatal 3-way or a 4-way, or who God knows what.
Which actually would dilute the idea of Lesnar Reigns one-on-one finally.
I agree. I think Lesnar has to retain. I don't know how Reigns has to lose and then come back to win the Royal Rumble and then go after the Beast, Brock Lesnar.
So really, what we're saying is there's kind of a lot of intrigue for both of these Rumble matches, as far as it's not quite as cut and dry in some years where it's pretty obvious where somebody is going to win, because of the fact that right now the big match for Mania is 2 guys that already hold the belt. One of which was a audible that had to be called because of COVID-19 protocol. It's really rewriting the whole script from now to Mania, and in some ways has made Royal Rumble more interesting.
And I just thought of this. The exact opposite of what I've said could also happen, where the Usos interfere and Lesnar loses to Bobby Lashley. Then Lesnar goes on to win the Royal Rumble.
I can almost see that even more.
That makes more sense. Then Lesnar has more of a beef to go after. Actually, I'm going to flip it. I'm changing everything I've just said, pretend it never happened. It's just like a WWE storyline. I'm just going to drop it like it never happened. And now we're going this way. Lesnar loses his belt and wins the Royal Rumble.
And somehow Paul Heyman is involved, and
Of
he
course he
becomes a
is.
central part of the storyline
Yes.
between now and Mania.
Yes.
That I can see.
That's better booking. All right.
So we actually have some intrigue in this Royal Rumble that
Absolutely.
maybe, and sometimes out of adversity comes opportunity. Rewriting the script and having to take the title off poor Big E and give it to Lesnar out of necessity. Now you have to rewrite how you get to Lesnar versus Reigns, which has kind of put Royal Rumble in flux. Makes hopefully when we're reviewing this on Saturday night, we're pleased with the direction they've gone and how they've managed to fool us, but we'll see.
We'll see. Hey, everybody, let us know in the comments below. Are we on? Are we off?
Who's your winner?
Who's your winner?
Yeah, who do you predict is going to go away with this one?
Our notes.
And with that, Doug, I think we're ready.
Oh my goodness, we have been rambling for quite a while, haven't we?
It is almost, we're right at the hour mark. So let's get to the big finish.
Big finish.
All right. So,
well, I've already kind of given away my match of the week.
Since you've done that, let me do my match of the week. For me, then, match of the week, I'd have to say NXT UK sometimes gets slept on. It's the NXT that still feels like NXT. Don't tell Vince it's out there. I don't think he realizes it's still on Peacock. He doesn't know it's there. Heritage Rules match. Champion Noam Dar this week defended against Kid A. And I'm sorry, A Kid.
Kid A is a Radiohead album,
which I'm pretty sure is where he got the name. A Kid versus Noam Dar went 6 rounds. And if that confuses you, that's another reason to watch NXT UK. British Heritage Rules is a round system where they have 3-minute rounds, and it's the first 1 to 2 pinfalls. So you can be tied 1-1 going into round 4 or 5.
Okay.
They really, it has a very sports-like feel. Actually, the match these two had was very sports-like in that there was a lot of mat wrestling, a lot of chain wrestling, a lot of near falls and counters. Then they took it to the air, and it ends up in a 1-1 draw by the end of it. So obviously it's going to be continued on a bigger stage, but it was a fantastic 20-25 minutes worth of wrestling. Definitely worth your time. My match of the week. Do you want to go botch or performer?
Let's go botch, because I was thinking about this.
Go for it.
Man, I lost my notes. They're not there. I've completely botched my botch. Oh my goodness. Where is my botch? How about you go?
Okay.
Because I botched my botch.
Well, this actually makes for an excellent segue for my botch of the week, because this is something that's really gotten under my skin. I know sometimes that our botches are less serious, more comical, and but this one's really something I wanted to get off my chest as far as like something that really, really irritates me. My botch of the week is Doug. And because I'm here with him, it's now time to tell him how I really feel about him. Not just because of this botch. The last couple of weeks, Doug's like, Braun Strowman is the only good thing about NXT 2.0. And then this week I'm watching NXT 2.0, and they have such a heck of a show. And I'm like, all right, Doug is so wrong. And we need to tell him about it. We got Grayson Waller, who is doing great work both in the ring and as a character. We got Mickey D'Angelo, who's showing a lot of promise as this Italian-American
Tony Soprano
type character. We got Carmelo Hayes and sort of his very slick, high-flying style that he's bringing to the ring. You got Zion Quinn. You got Cora Jade, who is the next page. You got Fatal Attraction doing their great work. And then you have that is the new kids. Then you do have Braun Strowman, of course, who's Braun Breaker. I'm sorry, that's miles above everybody else, but still, you have actually some remnants of the old NXT guard that's still there. That are Imperium and Pete Dunne and and this week a new guy showed up that you might know, a little guy named Walter.
You mean Gunther?
Walter.
And
so Legado del Fantasma. I mean, there's just an incredible wealth of talent, and so Doug, you're missing the boat, man.
So I am not above some constructive criticism, especially since I botched my own botch tonight.
You botched your botch.
So I will give it a second chance.
Give it a second. Give it a 2.0, Doug.
I will give it a 2.0. I will give it a 2.0, and it's right there on the tip of my tongue. This is what I get for trying to just go off.
Didn't you have it here somewhere?
I don't know. That's just the Wikipedia of matches. I thought it might be somewhere else over here in my notes, but it's not on my phone. It's not on my laptop.
I think it's funnier that you botched your botch.
So also this week, my botch. This guy right here, 2 thumbs.
We're in agreement for a change that Doug needs to pull it together. We both can agree you need to pull it together.
I'm a hot mess, everybody.
Performer of the week, Doug.
Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. Tell him about it.
Cody Rhodes. I was telling Kevin this earlier. Cody Rhodes is a Batman villain, y'all. I don't know if anybody realizes this yet. I think, here's my theory, Cody Rhodes did not quite know how to take the heat he was getting early on, but quickly adapted and overcame to become a heel that does not know he is a heel. He is building this character. We are witnessing wrestling greatness just like his father before him. Laugh if you want.
No, I'm a Cody fan.
We are witnessing wrestling greatness in action here. Everything Cody is doing is planned out meticulously. The promo he delivered this week, I don't know who told him not to do it, but I don't think anybody told him not to do it. I think even that
he's working us
was a work to get everybody to go, oh, they told him not to do this, but he's afraid he's never going to get a chance to do it. So if he doesn't do it, well, what's he got to say? What is he going to say? Because I was there, because I am that old Mark going, what's this kid saying? What is he saying? Cody Rhodes, my performer of the week. That promo, he is gold right now. Everybody has got it all wrong. He knows
what he's doing. He's not fighting it.
Exactly what
he's leaning doing. Into it.
Everybody else is wrong about it. He's right. Cody Rhodes. That's my AEW love for the night because we've been WWE heavy. Absolutely.
My performer of the week, I was going to go with Kevin Owens after watching him on Raw last week. If you didn't see it, it was hilarious. And Kevin can be hilarious in just that, like, you almost don't catch it if you're not like paying attention to what he just said, like, you know, that whole old school Jericho moment where, you know, Jericho called him what was he called Jericho the goat, and then Jericho turned and called him the donkey, and those little things, and then this week there was one of those moments where KO was being forced to wrestle Damian Priest, and he was upset because he wasn't dressed to wrestle because he was wearing a tie, and literally he's in his normal like gear with just a tie tied around, and just that little comic relief is just the little things that KO does so well. I was going to have that as the performer of the week. Now I'm wanting to call it a tie between that and having witnessed Otis tonight. Much to your call out earlier, I was like, watch him interfering behind the ref's back, healing, screaming at the crowd, screaming at the kids in a way that I don't think he's really shown on TV.
No, I don't think so.
But hey, Otis is a guy who came in almost as a joke character. I wasn't really big on heavy machinery. I kind of was like the Mandy storyline because it was, you know, a wrestling storyline that had a tradition in male-female relationships. It was funny for a mid-card act. He was green and he wasn't the most exciting. His wrestling game has improved. Working with Chad Gable has improved him tremendously because Gable's a Olympic level wrestler. Yes. And now they're world tag team champions, and he's doing this great heel work that I think they're probably going to eventually show on TV. And they're building him as a beast, which of course he built like a tank. So good on Otis, my performer of the week.
All right, sounds good. I can't believe I watched the botch.
I believe it. That's why you were my botch, my friend. I'm sorry that I had to come here in person to deliver this intervention. And with telling Doug how much he sucks, I will also say before we sign off, folks, happy birthday, Doug.
Oh, well, thank you.
Tomorrow is his birthday, which is all the more reason to come on here and hate on him for a few minutes. Love you, brother. Happy birthday tomorrow.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Join us next Saturday night at the conclusion of the Royal Rumble when we are live at the end of the event. Even if it's midnight, we're going to be live because it should be probably a long one. And we'll go over everything and review match by match. And,
absolutely.
Hopefully be surprised, and hopefully you join us.
Yep. I was all over the place with those predictions. Well, Tribal Chief to Brock Lesnar. We'll see. Or maybe it's all a botch again. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We're still live. I think you got to go over here and
There.
actually end the broadcast. Good night, everybody.
Now
Love you
my
guys.
botch. It's my botch.
End the broadcast.